Lights dimmed one by one, not all at once, as if the structure itself was tired and deciding where to give up. The metal walls groaned with long, deep sounds that traveled through the corridors like distant thunder. Warning alarms echoed, then cut out, then returned again in broken bursts. Outside the wide view panels, the planet below filled more of the sky every second, blue and white and far too close. Lieutenant Aaron Hale ran. His boots hit the deck hard as he moved through the evacuation corridor, one hand pressed to the wall to keep balance as gravity fluctuated. His breath came out in white clouds. The heating system had already failed on this level, and the cold bit fast and sharp. Evacuation shuttle departing in 4 minutes, a mechanical voice repeated overhead. All remaining personnel proceed immediately. Aaron already knew he was late. He had been rerouted twice. Fires, collapses, a jammed pressure door that had taken precious minutes to force open. Every second now mattered. The last shuttle would not wait. It never did. He rounded a corner and skidded to a stop. Something moved near the floor. At first he thought it was debris shifting as the station twisted, but then he saw the small shape clearly. A figure lay half buried under a fallen support beam, thin arms wrapped around herself, body shaking. Frost coated the fur along her shoulders and neck, glittering faintly in the failing lights. She was not human. Aaron swore under his breath and rushed forward. He dropped to one knee beside her, gripping the beam. It was heavy, but the damage looked worse than it was. A partial collapse, not a full one. "Hey," he said, keeping his voice calm even as his heart hammered. "Can you hear me?" Her head lifted slowly. Large dark eyes looked at him, unfocused at first, then sharp with fear. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. She swallowed, shivering harder. The cold was killing her. "Fast, please," she whispered finally. Her voice was thin, broken by pain. "I'm freezing." The words hit him harder than the alarms. Aaron's suit scanner flashed warnings across his visor. Species identified. Civilian. Non-combatant. Low survival threshold for cold exposure. Evacuation priority, minimal. He clenched his jaw. "Station command to all remaining units," a voice crackled in his earpiece. "Lieutenant Hale, report your status." He pressed the comm. "I'm in corridor C-17. I found a trapped civilian." There was a pause, too long. "Lieutenant," command said carefully, "you are to proceed to the shuttle immediately. Recovery teams are no longer active in that sector." "She won't survive," Aaron said. "Lieutenant, repeat your orders." He looked down at her again. Her hands clutched weakly at the metal floor, claws scraping uselessly. Frost crept across her fur and skin, her breathing shallow and uneven. She was trying not to cry, trying to be quiet. "Negative," Aaron said. "I'm not leaving her." Silence. Then, colder than the station itself. "That is a direct violation of protocol." Aaron reached for the beam and heaved. Pain shot through his arms, but the beam shifted. Not enough. He braced his boots, teeth clenched, and pushed again with everything he had. Muscles screamed. The beam slid just enough for him to pull her free. She cried out softly as he lifted her, light as nothing, her body trembling violently. The cold hit him harder now. The temperature dropped another degree as a distant explosion rocked the station. "Evacuation shuttle departing in 3 minutes," the voice repeated. "Come on," Aaron muttered. He pulled her close, wrapping one arm around her back. She was burning cold like ice against his suit. Instinctively, she clung to him, fingers digging into his arm as if letting go meant death. He stood and turned. The main corridor to the shuttle was gone. A collapsed bulkhead blocked the way, twisted metal sealed by frozen air and debris. Red emergency lights flashed uselessly over the wreckage. Aaron stared at it for 1 second. Then he turned the other way. The maintenance levels. They were not meant for evacuation. Narrow shafts, manual ladders, exposed wiring. But they ran deep through the station, spiraling downward toward the inner structure, toward heat if any still existed. He adjusted his grip on her and ran. The station shook again, harder this time. Gravity lurched sideways, throwing him into the wall. He slammed shoulder first, barely keeping hold of her. She made a small, frightened sound and tightened her grip. "I've got you," he said, breathless. "I won't drop you." He reached the maintenance access hatch and slammed his palm against the manual release. The panel slid open with a screech. Cold air poured out like a living thing. Inside, the ladder dropped straight down into darkness. Aaron didn't hesitate. He stepped into the shaft and began to climb down, one hand gripping the rung, the other holding her close against his chest. She pressed her face against his suit, trembling so hard it shook them both. Behind them, the evacuation timer ticked down. 2 minutes. The shaft lights flickered on as he descended. His arms burned, his legs shook. The cold seeped deeper, finding gaps in his suit seals, numbing fingers and toes. Her breathing grew weaker. "Hey," he said softly, forcing calm into his voice. "Stay with me. You hear me." Her answer was a faint movement, her head shifting slightly against him. Her grip loosened for a moment, then tightened again in panic. "No," she whispered. "Please don't." "I'm here," he said. "I'm not going anywhere." He reached the bottom of the ladder and stepped out into a narrow service corridor. The air here was marginally warmer. Not safe, but better. He moved quickly, boots splashing through thin ice on the floor. Steam rose from exposed pipes along the walls. He followed them deeper toward the central power systems. His suit alarm chimed again, core temperature dropping, exposure warning. He ignored it. She shuddered violently in his arms. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "You're human," she murmured, as if realizing it for the first time. "Yeah," he said, "that's right." Her gaze fixed on him, confusion mixed with fear. "Why?" He didn't answer right away. He didn't have a good one. "Because you're here," he said finally. Another explosion rocked the station. The lights went out completely. Emergency glow strips activated along the floor, painting everything red. Aaron spotted a junction panel ahead. Manual power reroute. If he could bring even a fraction of energy back to this section, the heat exchangers might come online. He set her down carefully against the wall, keeping one hand on her arm. She whimpered at the loss of contact, fingers clutching at his sleeve. "I need to do something," he said. "Just for a moment, I'm not leaving." Her eyes stayed on him, wide and terrified. Slowly, she nodded. He opened the panel. Cold metal bit into his fingers as he pulled cables free, rerouting them by hand. Sparks flew, burning his skin through the suit. He grunted but kept working, jaw tight. The temperature dropped again. Behind him, she cried out softly. "I'm freezing," she said again, weaker now. "It hurts." Aaron ripped open his suit's thermal liner and pulled it free. The alarm screamed louder now, warning of dangerous exposure. He wrapped the liner around her small body, tucking it around her shoulders, her legs, her arms. She gasped as warmth touched her skin, eyes widening. "There," he said, "that'll help." "But you," she started. "I'll manage." It was a lie, but a necessary one. The panel hummed suddenly. Lights flickered back on. A low vibration ran through the floor as power surged into the systems. Warm air began to flow, slow and weak, but real. Aaron sagged against the wall, breathing hard. His vision blurred at the edges. She reached out, fingers closing around his arm. Her grip was firmer now, desperate. "Don't go," she said. He looked down at her and managed a tired smile. "Not going anywhere." Far above them, the last evacuation shuttle detached from the station. Aaron Hale did not see it leave. The warmth that returned to the corridor was weak, uneven and slow, but it was enough to stop the worst of the cold. The frost on the walls melted into thin streams of water that ran along the floor. Pipes creaked as they adjusted, and somewhere deep in the station, an old system struggled back to life. Aaron slid down the wall until he was sitting on the cold metal floor. His hands shook as he tried to steady his breathing. The pain in his fingers had changed from numb to sharp, like needles pushing into his skin. He welcomed it. Pain meant he was still awake. The alien female sat wrapped in the torn thermal liner, her knees pulled close to her chest. The fur along her arms was damp now, darkened by melting frost. She watched him closely, eyes following every small movement he made. "You're bleeding," she said quietly. Aaron looked down. A thin line of blood ran from a tear in his glove, dark against pale skin. He flexed his fingers slowly. They responded, stiff but usable. "I'll live," he said. She did not look convinced. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The station groaned around them, metal shifting under stress. Far away, something exploded, a dull sound that vibrated through the floor. "You should have left," she said at last. Aaron shook his head. "No, you missed your escape," she continued. Her voice was stronger now, though still weak. "Humans value survival, everyone knows that." "We do," he said, "just not like that." She tilted her head slightly, studying him in a way that felt careful and serious. "My people would not have stopped." Aaron pushed himself to his feet, ignoring the way his legs protested. "Your people weren't here." He moved back to the open panel and checked the readings. Power was unstable but holding. Enough heat for now, not enough to last forever. They couldn't stay. He turned back to her. "Can you stand?" She hesitated, then nodded. She tried to rise, but her legs shook badly. Before she could fall, Aaron stepped forward and caught her, one arm steady around her shoulders. She froze at the contact, then slowly relaxed, leaning into him without resistance. "Easy," he said. "I've got you." Her fingers closed around the front of his suit again. This time she didn't seem aware she was doing it. They moved slowly through the corridor, following the glow strips toward the inner structure of the station. The main systems were gone, but auxiliary routes still existed, old and forgotten. Human-built stations always had backups for their backups. That had saved them more than once. Aaron kept his pace measured. Too fast and he would burn energy he didn't have. Too slow and the station might finish tearing itself apart around them. His suit chimed softly again. He silenced it without looking. He didn't need another reminder. "You are cold," she said suddenly. "I'll be fine." "That is not true." He glanced down at her. She was looking up at him, eyes sharp now, focused. Whatever fog had been in her mind earlier was clearing. "You gave me your heat," she said. "That is not logical." "Maybe not," he replied, "but it worked." She tightened her grip on him slightly. "Humans are dangerous." He gave a short, tired laugh. "I've heard that." They reached a junction where the corridor split. One path sloped downward, marked with faded warning symbols. The other curved upward toward a collapsed section. Aaron chose down. As they moved, the air grew warmer but thicker, filled with the smell of burnt wiring and old metal. The lights flickered again, then stabilized. Her breathing evened out, the shaking stopped. After a while she spoke again. "My name is Saley." "Nice to meet you, Saley," Aaron said. "I'm Aaron." She tried the name quietly, as if testing it. "Aaron." Something in the way she said it made him glance at her again. There was weight there, meaning. The corridor opened into a wider maintenance bay. Emergency consoles lined the walls, most of them dark. In the center stood an old service unit, inactive but intact. Aaron guided her to sit on a low crate near one of the heat vents. He knelt in front of her and checked the liner around her shoulders, adjusting it to keep the warmth in. She did not pull away. Instead, she watched his hands carefully. "You are injured," she said again. "I've had worse. That does not make it acceptable." He paused, surprised, then smiled faintly. "You sound like a medic." "My mother was one," she said, "before the cold storms took our city." Aaron didn't ask more. He'd learned long ago that some stories needed time. He stood and moved to the service unit, forcing stiff fingers to work the manual controls. The screen flickered on, ancient text scrolling across it. "Emergency beacon status, offline." "Damn," he muttered. "What is wrong?" Saley asked. "No signal." The station's distress call might not be transmitting from this level. Her ears flattened slightly, a gesture he recognized now as fear. "Then no one will come." "Not yet," he said, "but humans don't like losing people. They'll look." and if they do not find us in time. Aaron looked at the screen, then back at her. He didn't answer right away. We keep moving, he said finally. As long as we can. The station shook again, stronger this time. A loud tearing sound echoed through the bay, followed by the crash of something heavy collapsing nearby. Saley cried out and stood suddenly, stumbling toward him. She pressed against his side, arms wrapping around him tightly. He stiffened in surprise, then slowly placed a hand on her back to steady her. "It's okay," he said. "It's just the station settling." She didn't loosen her grip. Her body was warm now, warmer than before, too warm. Aaron frowned slightly and pulled back just enough to look at her. Her skin beneath the fur glowed faintly, a soft golden light spreading along her arms and neck. "What's happening?" he asked. She looked startled, then frightened. "I didn't mean to," she said. It's a response." "A response to what?" "To you," she said. "To loss." The glow brightened for a moment, then dimmed as she seemed to force it back under control. She swayed, suddenly weak. Aaron caught her again, holding her upright. "Easy, sit down," she did, breathing hard. "That ability," she said quietly, "is not meant to be used lightly. It burns time." "Time," he repeated. "Life," she corrected. "Years." He stared at her. "You shouldn't do that, not for me." She looked up at him, eyes steady. "You already decided my life was worth your risk." The words settled between them, heavy and unavoidable. Before he could respond, the service unit chimed again. A new line of text appeared. "External scan detected. Unmanned drones in sector range." Aaron let out a slow breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "There you are." "Are they yours?" Saley asked. "Human," he said. "Automated rescue scouts." Her grip tightened on his sleeve again. "They will not separate us." He hesitated for just a fraction of a second. "They'll want to get us both out, that's the goal." "That was not my question." He met her gaze. "No," he said gently. "They won't force anything." The floor trembled again, more violently. The station was breaking apart now, systems failing faster than they could react. The service unit projected a path toward the nearest hull breach where drones could reach them. It wasn't far, but the route passed through an exposed section. "Can you walk?" Aaron asked. She nodded, pushing herself to her feet. She stayed close to him, their shoulders touching as they moved. The exposed section was worse than he expected. Panels were missing, showing open space beyond reinforced fields. The stars were visible, cold and distant. The temperature dropped sharply again. Saley gasped and stumbled. Aaron immediately pulled her close, wrapping one arm around her and using his body to shield her from the worst of the cold. His suit screamed warnings again, louder now. She clung to him, fingers digging in painfully. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I can't stop shaking." "Don't apologize," he said through clenched teeth. "Just hold on." They moved step by step, slow and careful. His vision blurred again, dark spots creeping in at the edges. He focused on the glow strips ahead, counting steps to stay conscious. Halfway across, one of the force fields flickered. Aaron reacted without thinking. He pulled Saley down hard, dropping them both to the deck as a burst of freezing vacuum air tore through the corridor. Tools and debris flew past them, slamming into the far wall. The field stabilized seconds later. Silence followed, broken only by their breathing. Saley did not let go. Aaron lay there for a moment, chest heaving, then tried to push himself up. His arms trembled violently. "Stay," she said urgently. "Please." "I need to move," he replied, voice rough. "We're almost there." She shifted closer, pressing against him, sharing what warmth she could. The faint golden glow returned, stronger this time. "No," he said sharply. "Don't do that." She ignored him. "I will not let you die," she said. "Not after what you did." He wanted to argue. He didn't have the strength. The drones appeared moments later, small lights cutting through the darkness. Mechanical voices announced rescue protocols, scanning both of them at once. Aaron barely registered them as robotic arms lifted them gently from the floor. His grip on Saley loosened involuntarily as exhaustion finally won. Before his vision faded completely, he felt her hands tighten around his arm, refusing to let go. And even as unconsciousness took him, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. She meant it. The first thing Aaron felt was warmth. Not the sharp, painful warmth that came after freezing, but something steady and deep, like being wrapped in thick blankets after a long winter night. His body floated, heavy and light at the same time. Sounds came slowly. A low hum, soft beeps. Distant voices that faded before he could understand them. He tried to open his eyes. They refused. Panic flickered, weak but real. His chest tightened. He tried to move his hands, his legs. Nothing responded. Then he felt pressure. Someone was holding his arm. The grip was firm. Not mechanical, not medical, alive. "Do not let go," a quiet voice said. "Please." The words cut through the fog. Aaron dragged in a breath, sharp and sudden. His eyes opened halfway, vision blurred and swimming. White light filled his sight, broken by shadows and shapes that slowly became clear. A medical bay, human design, clean lines, soft lighting, emergency recovery ward. And beside him, sitting far too close for hospital rules, was Sally. She was wrapped in layered blankets now, her fur brushed and clean, her color stronger than before. Thin monitoring bands circled her wrists and neck, glowing faintly. Her eyes were fixed on him, wide and unblinking, as if she was afraid he might disappear if she looked away. Her hands were locked around his forearm. "Hey," he croaked. Relief flooded her face so fast it almost hurt to see. Her grip tightened instantly. "You're awake," she said, her voice shook. "They said you might not be." Aaron swallowed, throat dry. "Guess I'm stubborn." She made a small sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. She leaned forward slightly, still holding him as if she needed to make sure he was real. A human medic noticed the change and rushed over. "Lieutenant Hale, easy. You've been through severe exposure and shock." "Don't move too much." Aaron nodded faintly. "Her," he said, lifting his eyes toward Sally. "She okay?" The medic hesitated, glancing at Sally, then back at Aaron. "Physically stable, exhausted. We don't fully understand her biology yet." Sally did not look away from Aaron. "I am alive," she said simply, "because of him." The medic cleared his throat and stepped back, uncomfortable. Time passed strangely after that. Aaron drifted in and out of sleep. Every time he woke, Sally was there, sometimes sitting, sometimes standing when medics forced her to move a little, but always close, always holding onto him when she could. When he was strong enough to speak properly, he tried to joke about it. "You know," he said quietly, "they're going to think I'm your emotional support human." She tilted her head. "Is that a problem?" "No," he said, "just new." Her ears twitched. "Everything about humans is new." News of what happened spread quickly. It always did. Human rescue crews had lost 2 drones, and almost an entire secondary team trying to extract survivors from the station's lower levels. They expected to find bodies. Instead, they found a human officer unconscious but alive, and a non-human civilian shielding him with her own body, refusing to release him even when drones attempted separation. The drone footage went viral within hours. Across human networks, comments flooded in. Praise, anger, arguments about protocol and risk, about whether one life was worth so much danger. Across non-human networks, the reaction was quieter and far more disturbed. Sally's people did not understand what she had done. They sent representatives, quiet observers with calm voices and careful questions. They watched the recordings again and again. A human tearing open his own thermal liner. A human choosing isolation and death over abandoning a stranger. A human collapsing and another species refusing to let him die. "This is not standard behavior," one observer said flatly. "No," another agreed. "It is not." Sally was questioned when she was strong enough. They asked why she stayed, why she used her inner heat, why she refused rescue unless Aaron was moved first. She answered simply. "He chose me," she said. "I chose him." "That is not logical," they told her. Neither is surviving, she replied. The phrase spread. Aaron learned about all this days later when he could finally sit up on his own. His hands were bandaged. His skin showed signs of frost damage, but doctors were optimistic. Humans healed well. Humans always did. Sally sat on the edge of his bed as close as regulations allowed. She still held his arm, though less tightly now. "They are afraid," she said. "Of me?" Aaron asked. "Of you," she said, then corrected herself. "Of humans," he frowned. "Why?" She took a breath, choosing her words carefully. "Because you do not measure life the way others do." "That sounds bad." "It is," she said. "And it is also beautiful." She explained as best she could. How most species classified risk strictly. How loss was calculated, accepted, expected. How individuals were expendable in the face of survival math. "And then there are humans," she said, "who ignore the math." Aaron leaned back slightly. "We're not great with numbers under pressure." "That is not what I mean," she said. "You see one person freezing and the universe becomes very small." He didn't know how to respond to that. Recovery continued. Slowly, Sally's people requested that she return to them, politely. Carefully, they offered protection, care, transport. She refused. "I will stay," she said. "With the human," they asked. "Yes." Aaron tried to intervene. "You don't have to do that. I'm fine now." She looked at him, expression unreadable. "You still do not understand." "Then explain it to me," he said gently. She waited until they were alone. "When my species bonds," she said, "it is not temporary, it is not emotional, it is biological." His stomach tightened. "Bond, you showed the signs," she continued. "Endurance under suffering. Willingness to die to preserve another. Refusal to abandon even when logic demands it." He stared at her. "Those are just human things." "To us," she said softly, "they are proof." "Proof of what?" "That you are safe," she said, "and dangerous both at once." He exhaled slowly. "Sally, I burned years of my life," she said. "Not because I wanted to, because my body decided you were worth it." Silence stretched between them. "I didn't ask for that," Aaron said finally. "I know," she replied. "That is why it matters." Word reached command soon after. Lieutenant Hale was requested politely but firmly to attend a debrief. Medical clearance or not, questions needed answers. The room was sterile and quiet. A long table, several officers, observers from allied species, watching without speaking. Aaron sat stiffly, hands folded. Sally waited outside reluctantly. They showed him the footage. Again, they asked why he disobeyed orders, why he risked the mission, why he entered maintenance shafts during station collapse, why he removed critical survival gear. Aaron answered honestly. "She was freezing," he said, "so I helped her." "That is not sufficient justification," one officer said. Aaron met his gaze. "It was to me." There were murmurs, uncomfortable ones. Finally, the senior commander spoke. "Lieutenant, do you understand that your actions may change how humanity is perceived?" Aaron shrugged slightly. "That already happened a long time ago." The commander studied him for a long moment. "You are not wrong." He was cleared, with conditions. When Aaron left the room, Sally stood immediately. Her shoulders relaxed when she saw him. "They did not punish you," she said. "No," he replied, "but they're thinking hard." She reached for his arm again. He let her. In the days that followed, Sally was rarely alone. Humans were curious, too curious. They asked questions, offered food she couldn't eat, smiled too much. She tolerated it. What she did not tolerate was being separated from Aaron. When medics tried to move him to a different wing, she followed. When officers requested private meetings, she waited outside, unmoving. When someone suggested transport without him, she reacted sharply enough to end the conversation immediately. She did not threaten. She simply refused. And humans, for all their power, respected refusal when it came with quiet certainty. The galaxy watched. Reports spread. Analysis followed. Think pieces, fear. A species that would die for strangers. A species that turned individuals into unbreakable anchors. A species that did not let go. One analyst summed it up best. Humans do not bond lightly, the report read. But once bonded, they redefine survival itself. Aaron and Saley stood together near a viewport days later, watching the stars drift past. "You regret it?" Aaron asked quietly. "No," she said without hesitation. "Even knowing what it cost you," she looked at him, eyes steady. "Some warmth is worth the cold that follows." He nodded slowly. Somewhere far beyond the ship, the universe adjusted its understanding of humanity. And it would never be the same again. The ship moved quietly through open space, far from the broken station that had almost killed them both. Its engines hummed in a steady rhythm, a sound that slowly became normal, almost comforting. Inside, life continued in careful steps, watched by many eyes. Aaron was cleared from medical care 3 days later. He did not feel ready. His body still ached in deep places. His hands were stiff in the mornings, fingers slow to obey. But the doctors said his damage would heal. Humans always healed, they reminded him, sometimes faster than expected. Saley waited outside the medical bay when he walked out. She stood very straight, hands folded in front of her, eyes fixed on the door. When she saw him, her shoulders dropped slightly, as if she had been holding tension for hours. "You're walking," she said. "Against medical advice," he replied. That earned him a soft sound from her that was very close to a laugh. She moved closer, then stopped herself, clearly unsure how much contact was allowed now. Aaron solved the problem by offering his arm. After only a second of hesitation, she took it. The ship's corridors were busy that day. Crews moved with purpose, voices low. Too many glances followed them, curious, careful, some respectful, some uneasy. Saley noticed all of them. "They are watching," she said quietly. "They always do," Aaron answered. "We just usually give them a reason." They were escorted to a small observation room near the ship's center. It had no restraints, no guards inside, but the door sealed behind them with a soft hiss. A viewport showed nothing but stars. "This is a meeting room," Aaron said. "Which means they want to talk." Saley's ears shifted back slightly. "I do not like talks that need sealed doors." "Me neither." They did not wait long. The door opened and several figures entered, human officers, calm and serious. And with them 3 representatives of Saley's species, taller than her, older. Their expressions were controlled, their movements precise. Saley stiffened beside Aaron. One of the representatives spoke first. "Saley of the Northern Drift," she said. "You have refused all return requests." "Yes," Saley replied. "You understand the concern," the representative continued. "Your actions were extreme, dangerous. You altered your biology in ways that may shorten your life." Saley did not look away. So did he. The representative paused, eyes shifting briefly to Aaron. Aaron raised a hand slightly. "For the record, no one ordered her to do anything. She made her own choices." "That is the problem," another representative said calmly. "Choice under emotional influence." Saley's hands tightened on Aaron's sleeve. "My choice was clear," she said. "He acted first." The room grew quiet. A human officer cleared his throat. "The reason for this meeting is not punishment, it's understanding and future impact." Aaron leaned back slightly. "You mean politics?" "Yes," the officer admitted. "This situation has created questions." One of Saley's people turned to Aaron. "Why did you pull her with you into the maintenance shaft?" Aaron blinked. "Because it was the only way down." "That is not what I mean," the representative said. "You did not know if it would lead to safety." "No," Aaron agreed. "I didn't." "Then why?" Aaron thought for a moment, then shrugged. "Because standing still meant she would die. That risked your own death." "Yes." "Without gain." Aaron frowned slightly. "She gained." The representatives exchanged looks. "That answer," one said slowly, "is why your species is now being reassessed." Saley turned her head sharply. "Reassessed how?" "As unstable," the representative replied. "And influential." Aaron sighed. "That sounds worse than it is." "It is exactly as bad as it sounds," the human officer said quietly. Your actions have already affected alliance discussions. Saley's eyes widened. Because he saved one life. Because he proved something, the officer said. That humans do not operate on expected survival rules, Saley straightened. That is not a flaw. No, the officer agreed, but it is dangerous. The meeting continued for hours. Questions, answers, replays of events, analysis of choices. Through it all, Saley stayed close to Aaron. When stress rose, her fingers would tighten. When voices grew sharp, she would shift slightly in front of him without realizing it. At one point, one of the representatives noticed. You place yourself between him and threat, they observed. Saley answered without hesitation. Yes, even though he is physically stronger. Yes. Explain, she thought for a moment. Strength does not stop loss. The room went quiet again. When the meeting finally ended, no decisions were announced. That Aaron knew was not good news. It meant discussions would continue, quietly, slowly, dangerously. As they left, Saley exhaled shakily. I do not like being studied, she said. Welcome to being human adjacent, Aaron replied. Later that day, they were given temporary quarters together. That alone caused tension. Some officers argued it was unprofessional. Others pointed out that separating them had already caused distress. Medical data showed Saley's stress levels spiked when Aaron was out of range. In the end, practicality won. The room was small but clean. 2 sleeping platforms, soft lighting, no restraints. Saley stood in the doorway for a long moment before entering. This is acceptable, she said finally. Aaron smiled. High praise. That night the ship passed through a region of unstable space. Nothing dangerous but enough turbulence to rattle the hull. Alarms chimed softly. Lights dimmed, then steadied. Saley woke suddenly, breath sharp. Aaron sat up immediately. Hey, it's okay, just turbulence. She looked around, disoriented, then focused on him. Without a word, she moved closer, sitting beside him. I thought I lost you, she said. You didn't. Her hand found his arm again. This time he didn't comment. In the days that followed, things grew more complicated. Messages arrived from other species, some curious, some cautious, some openly fearful. Humans were asked to explain themselves. Why do you bond so strongly? Why do you risk so much? Why does one life outweigh many calculations? Human diplomats struggled to answer, because there was no single reason. Aaron was called in again, this time not as a soldier but as an example. How does it feel, one analyst asked, to be the reason treaties may change? Aaron stared at them. That's not my job, but it happened, he sighed. Then maybe your treaties were weak. That response spread faster than anyone expected. Saley watched all of this with growing concern. They will try to control this, she said one evening. Us, Aaron asked. Bonding, she corrected. They will want rules. Humans love rules, Aaron said dryly. We just hate following them. She studied him. Would you undo it? What? What you did, she said. If you could. Aaron didn't answer right away. I don't think about it like that, he said finally. I don't regret it if that's what you're asking. She nodded slowly. Good. Why? Because my people may force a choice, she said quietly. Stay with humans or leave permanently. Aaron's chest tightened. What do you want? She looked at him, eyes steady, certain. I already chose. The ship changed course soon after. They were heading toward a neutral council station, a place where words mattered more than weapons, where decisions echoed across systems. Everyone knew why. As they approached, Saley stood by the viewport watching the station grow larger. They will ask me to explain why I will not let you go, she said. And what will you tell them? Aaron asked. She turned to him. I will tell them the truth, she said. That when the cold came, you did not hesitate. And now, neither will I. Outside, the council station waited. Inside, the galaxy prepared to hear something it had never faced before. That survival did not always mean standing alone. And that once a human chose you, the universe itself had to make room. The council station was older than most of the alliances that now depended on it. It floated in neutral space, wide and calm, its lights steady and welcoming. It had been built long ago by species that believed talking was better than fighting. Over time, it became the place where decisions were made that shaped entire regions of the galaxy. Aaron and Saley stood at one of its wide viewports as their ship docked. The station's surface reflected softly against the stars, peaceful in a way that felt almost unreal after everything they had survived. "They will be watching everything," Aaron said quietly. Saley nodded. "They already are." From the moment they stepped onto the station, that became clear. Representatives from dozens of species filled the halls, moving in slow, careful groups. Some looked openly curious. Others avoided eye contact. A few watched Saley with expressions that mixed concern and fear. Human guards escorted them, but not in a way that felt like protection alone. It was also observation. They were brought to a waiting chamber near the central council hall. The room was large and open, with soft light and simple seating arranged in a circle. No barriers. No visible weapons. "This is where you wait," one of the human officers said. "They'll call you when it's time." Saley's fingers brushed Aaron's sleeve, a small grounding touch. "You will be with me." "Unless they physically drag me out," Aaron replied. "Which would be a bad idea." She seemed to relax slightly at that. Time passed slowly. When the doors finally opened, the sound echoed through the chamber. A quiet signal, an invitation. They stepped inside together. The council hall was vast. Tiered seating rose around a central floor filled with representatives of many forms and shapes. Some sat, some floated, some stood behind glowing panels. All eyes were on them. Saley felt it immediately, the pressure, the weight of being seen. Aaron felt it too, but in a different way. Humans were used to attention. They were just rarely comfortable with it. A voice echoed through the hall, translated smoothly into common language. "Saley of the Northern Drift, Lieutenant Aaron Hale of the Human Coalition. You stand here because your actions have raised questions that cannot be ignored." Saley stepped forward half a pace. "Then ask them." There was a pause, a ripple of quiet movement. One of the council members spoke. "Saley, your people report that you have initiated a permanent bond response. Is this correct?" "Yes." "Might you explain why?" Saley's ears shifted back slightly, a sign of focus rather than fear. She looked around the hall, then back at Aaron for just a moment. He gave a small nod. "When the station failed," she began, "I was trapped. The cold would have taken me. That was expected, acceptable." Murmurs spread softly. "Then a human saw me," she continued. "He was told to leave. He did not. He was told it was illogical. He did not care." She raised her hand slightly, fingers trembling just a little. "He gave me his warmth. He gave me his chance to live. When the cold came for him, my body responded the only way it could." Another council member leaned forward. "You sacrificed years of your life." "Yes." "For a stranger," she shook her head. "He was not a stranger, he chose me." The hall grew very quiet. A different voice spoke, sharper. "Lieutenant Hale, did you intend to create this bond?" Aaron cleared his throat. "No." "Did you understand the consequences?" "No." "Then why did you act?" Aaron looked around at the assembled beings. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't try to impress. "She was freezing," he said simply. Silence followed, long and heavy. One council member broke it. "That answer is insufficient." Aaron shrugged slightly. "It was enough for me." Somewhere in the hall something shifted. Not anger, not approval, something else. Unease. Another voice spoke, older, slower. "Humans have done this before." Heads turned. "Yes," the voice continued. "Again and again, in wars, in disasters. In quiet moments no one records. They choose individuals over outcomes. That makes them unpredictable," someone argued. "And loyal," the older voice replied. "To a fault." Saley stepped forward again. "My people fear this," she said honestly. "They fear that once a human chooses you, you are never alone again." "That is not always a gift," another council member said. "No," Saley agreed, "but it is always a promise." The discussion went on for hours. Arguments rose and fell. Concerns were raised about influence, dependency, imbalance, about what would happen if humans spread this kind of bond across species lines, about what would happen if they didn't. Aaron listened, speaking only when asked. Sally answered every question calmly, clearly. She did not defend humans as perfect. She did not claim their choices were always right. She only spoke of what they were. Eventually, the central speaker raised a hand. This council must decide whether this bond represents a threat, they said, or an opportunity. The vote was not unanimous. It never was, but the decision stood. Sally was granted interspecies asylum, not as a refugee but as a liaison, a bridge. Her bond was formally recognized, not as ownership, not as obligation, but as choice. Humans were issued no restrictions. That fact alone made several species uneasy. When it was over, the hall slowly emptied. Conversations buzzed quietly, already shaping new policies, new fears, new hopes. Aaron and Sally stood alone for a moment in the center of the vast room. "It's done," Aaron said softly. "Yes," Sally replied, "and it has only begun." They returned to the ship later that day. Life did not suddenly become simple. There were interviews, requests, offers, warnings disguised as concern. Humans wanted stories, other species wanted distance. Aaron was offered reassignment, not punishment, something else. "You've become symbolic," his commander told him. "Whether you like it or not," Aaron grimaced. "I just wanted to fix things." "You did," the commander said, "just not the way we expected." Sally stayed close through all of it, not out of fear now but certainty. One evening, as the ship drifted between stars, Aaron sat in the quiet observation lounge. His hands rested on his knees, fingers slowly regaining their strength. Sally stood beside him, watching the stars. "You are thinking too loudly," she said. He smiled faintly. "Yeah, I do that." "Do you wish things were different?" she asked. He considered the question carefully. "No, harder maybe, complicated but not different," she nodded. "Good." She moved closer, then stopped, studying his face. "My people asked me something today." "What?" "They asked if I feared becoming too human." "And?" he asked. She placed her hand gently over his, warm, steady. "I told them humans do not change who you are," she said. "They remind you what you can choose." Aaron felt something tighten in his chest. Not pain, something quieter. Outside, the stars continued their endless motion. Somewhere far away, analysts rewrote threat models. Commanders adjusted strategies. Civilizations debated what it meant to face a species that would cross fire, cold, and vacuum for a single life. They would come to one conclusion again and again. Humans were not dangerous because they were strong. They were dangerous because they did not let go. And once you had been pulled back from the cold by one of them, you were never truly alone again.